Hello and welcome. Today we will talk about ethical leadership, chapter 11 of the textbook. In this chapter about ethical leadership, we will try to demonstrate the importance of leadership in creating an ethical culture in any organization. So an important part of leadership is the implementation of employee-centered leadership. One essential component of employee-centered leadership is effective communication, which you've been involved with since you were born, obviously. And without effective communication, all attempts at maintaining an ethical culture tends to fail. We will start with one of the ethical dilemmas that you or anybody could face in any workplace in our day-to-day work environment. In this chapter regarding leadership, the ethical dilemma focused on communication conflict management, as well as training and developing staff to be able to complete the goals of the firm. In this case, Stacy was hired because of her strong skill set in quality of her education. Once Stacy was hired, she actually received little guidance and training and was set up in a way for failure in this organization. By being given a heavy workload and being scrutinized by one of the partners named Doug, Stacy became very dissatisfied with the treatment and unreasonable expectations toward employees at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howie. Stacy is unsure how to present the firm in a positive and favorable manner to anybody else that she comes across. There are several leadership problems which are occurring at Dewey, Cheatham, and Howie organization. The first is the fact that management is not training and developing their staff to successfully complete their tasks. Stacy was not informed about the company policy against working off the clock. Also, since her supervisor knew that she was working off the clock, the supervisor should have informed Stacy of the company's policy. Second, Doug reprimands Stacy without trying to improve the situation or her skill set so that she is able to successfully handle similar situations in the future. He displays a competing style of conflict management, and his interactions with Stacy are somewhat hostile and his expectations unrealistic. Third, after the partners received the psychologist's report, instead of collaborating with employees and attempting to improve the situation, they actually instructed the staff to falsely display the company in a positive and favorable manner with new hires and newcomers in the organization. For these reasons, there seems to be little hope that the problems at the company will improve anytime soon. In fact, the partners are all but guaranteeing that new hires will soon be in the same situation as Stacy, if not worse. So the question is, what can you do about it? And what would you do in this case? And what would you do to improve the environment so there is ethical leadership on the part of at least the founders and the managers in this organization? Let us take a close look at this case so you can answer some of the questions and reflect upon them. Let us closely look at the ethical dilemma that's presented at the beginning of your chapter so you can reflect upon the questions and hopefully develop possible solutions in case you're faced with such a dilemma. Stacy, a recently hired employee of a growing local CPA firm called Dewey, Cheatham, and Howie, passed all 4 parts of the CPA exam. The University of Virginia prepped her well for her new job, and the partners had high expectations for Stacy because she scored near the top of her graduating class. As a result, Stacy was fast-tracked and performed at an advanced level on some jobs, This was due in part to her excellent skill set, but also because of heavy firm turnover at the senior level. Because of the long hours in her inexperience, Stacy started to make simple errors such as not meeting time budgets. She began working off the clock because she did not want management to know that she had a hard time handling the workload. After a few months, she casually mentioned the extra hours to a coworker who told her working off the clock is considered unethical and the company has strict policies against it. Stacy was embarrassed but also upset that the company never made this known to her, particularly since she knew her immediate supervisor knew full well what she was doing. Stacy stopped working off the clock and began to work more quickly to get things done in the expected time frames. A few weeks ago, Stacy learned her recent work on a tax return had to be redone. Stacy mistakenly charged the wrong client for the return. Doug, one of the partners, publicly reprimanded her by saying, "Next time it is coming out of your paycheck." Later that same week, as Stacy helped interview a candidate for one of the open accounting positions, she accidentally chipped the glass table in the conference room. When Doug heard about it, he said, "I hope your personal insurance covers the table. You will need to speak to the secretary and get this replaced." Over the following months, the firm continued having more resignations. It became so problematic that the senior board requested a psychologist interview all the staff members. When Stacy was interviewed, she described the poor treatment of employees and unreasonable expectations. Apparently, other employees had the same complaint. The resulting report from the consultant pointed toward numerous management problems at the company. Shortly thereafter, the partners responded in a way the staff did not expect. They took the report personally. As a result, rumors began to surface that the firm was going to go up for sale. Still, the interviews for staff positions continued. On Monday morning, a memo surfaced stating that all staff doing interviews for new hires were to present the firm in a positive and favorable manner. Stacy was one of those staff members doing the interviews. Stacy did not know how to portray the firm in a positive manner when she was so miserable. She particularly disliked Doug. It seemed to Stacy that Doug made it his mission to torment her by criticizing her every move. He hovered around her desk and made comments about making sure not to mess up again. After getting advice from one of her coworkers, Stacy decided to approach Doug about his behavior. He did not take it well. "Look, if you think I'm being too hard on you, then maybe you should leave," Doug responded. "It's obvious you're not cut out for this business." Doug continued to berate Stacy for her shoddy work until she was close to tears. "If you want to make it in this business, honey, you got to realize when to pick your fights. Me, I'm not in the habit of losing." Doug walked off in a huff. The next day, Stacy was to interview someone for a lower level accounting position. As she walked down the hallway, Doug approached her. "I hear you're going to be interviewing a new candidate today. Just remember, make this company look good. No whining about your bad work experience." Stacy contained her anger when she entered the room and sat down in front of the candidate. She did her best to act professional and stifle her emotions. The real dilemma came when the candidate asked about the firm's culture and how Stacy personally liked working there. She swallowed. She did not know how to sugarcoat her answer without making it an outright lie. Questions in discussion reflection for you. 1. Describe the deficiencies in ethical leadership at Stacy's firm. 2. What type of conflict management style does Doug have? Are there more constructive ways for him to handle conflicts with employees? 3rd, describe the alternatives Stacy has answering the candidate's questions and the advantages and disadvantages of each. What would you do if you were Stacy in this situation? Remember that ethical leadership communication requires transparency in reporting. Transparency develops a culture where ethics is frequently discussed and people are able to openly discuss various issues that they see as problematic for them, for a department, or for you as a leader or manager. Reporting basically means there's a two-way process. Both employee and leader feel a responsibility to report to their subordinates and to their bosses. Keep in mind to use the radar model for dealing with misconduct recovery. When ethical misconduct or issue arises in your department or workplace, as a leader, you should have plans in place to answer the stakeholders' concerns and to recover from this misconduct as quickly as possible, and so you can save face. You can adapt the acronym RADAR to describe an ethical leader's duty to recognize ethical issues, to avoid misconduct whenever possible, to discover ethical risk areas, to answer stakeholder concerns when an ethical issue comes to light, and finally to recover from a misconduct or disaster by improving upon weaknesses in the ethics program and being developmental, and to have that continuous improvement for your future so these mistakes do not happen again. So use the radar model to prevent misconduct and to recover from it. Leaders always face challenges, conflicts, and misconducts, but they take care of it based on the values that they want to portray, and they are consistent in how they respond to those misconducts. And as I always say, that the only way to build and enhance your muscles in your professional brand is to chisel it through high standards and ethical behaviors every single day. So exercise your critical thinking, and also be in the business of continuous improvement in every decision you make, because the best outcomes are likely to be realized by those who plan, those who do, those who check, those who act, as part of the continuous cycle of making progressive improvements to the situation to make sure future misconducts do not happen. And of course, when they do, you can use the radar model to effectively deal with it to reduce the negative exposure or negative impact, and also to assure stakeholders that you're taking relevant steps to deal with it effectively and to reduce its chance of happening in the future. As always, remember that ethical behavior is a skill. You need to police, you need to evaluate, and you need to improve your ethical muscles regularly so you can be the best ethical leader who can manage and lead and guide others effectively in any given situation. Good luck.